thank everyone for joining tonight. We've got a very special guest. A lot of you know her here locally. She is Emerald Ambassador Lauren Yarborough. Her husband is better known as Yar, right, for short. And Lauren is a very loyal TCU graduate. Hook 'em horns, right? She's a horny toad, or what's her horn frog. And beyond being a really strong fitness guru, very strong health guru, she's just a good all-around person, and we're really excited to have her joining us and sharing and imparting to our team. So with that, I'll turn it over to Miss Lauren.
Thanks so much, Phil. I really appreciate the intro. That means a lot. And yeah, I am a bit of a TCU fan. I get a lot of jokes that either I'm wearing Plexus gear or TCU gear. If I'm actually dressed in like nice clothes, people are like, "Oh, what are you doing today?" Like, I do own other things, I promise. But anyway, Phil and Jen asked me to talk on alignment with you guys. I know that you're focusing on that in April, and we're focusing on that. Phil's going to mute everybody. Thinking about that in our team as well in April, and I think it's a really, really great time to talk about it, because as we start to get away from those beginning of the year resolutions and start to move into a slower summer point, it's really a good time to kind of stop down and go, okay, this is where we want to be. Here's what we're doing. Is that matching up? And I love this quote that I came across just kind of in getting ready for this, and I think that it speaks volumes. Discipline is the bridge between goals and accomplishment, and that's from Jim Rohn. And it really is. Discipline really is in there. And you know, I think that as ambassadors, we have to find that life of discipline. And nobody loves that word, but it falls right in line with alignment. The two go hand in hand. You cannot have alignment without discipline. You know, I think so often we live in what I like to call a hashtag lifestyle. You know, we're real quick to throw up there, hashtag boss babe, hashtag healthy life, hashtag Plexus freedom, you know, and we post all of these things, but I think sometimes we really have to have that real quick gut check just to make sure that we are completely in alignment with what we are promoting ourselves as. Because here's the thing, if we're not in alignment with that, people are going to see it. They're going to know it. We're going to know it. Even if they don't know it, we're going to know it inside, and it is going to slow down our business in one way or another. So when we talk about that plexus freedom, which is a real thing, it really is. When we talk about that, it really breaks down into 3 different categories, in my opinion. It breaks down into health freedom. It breaks down into financial freedom, and it also breaks down into time freedom. And so I want you to think about alignment really quickly, and I'm sure that you might have heard this, but think about it in the traditional sense of alignment. When you're driving a car and you have even one wheel slightly out of alignment, it's going to throw everything off. You're not going to get as good of gas mileage. You're going to get better, horrible wear on your tires. It's going to be harder on the engine. It's going to be a bumpier ride. All of these things, just because one little thing wasn't quite in alignment with the goals of getting you to where you want to be. So, we have to think about that and find that true alignment in each category. And like I said, if you don't find that alignment in each of those 3 categories, not only will your business suffer, but honestly, you're just not going to find the true joy that this job can bring. And not everybody finds that. And sometimes that's why we find people that leave to go to other companies, or they back off of their business, because they haven't found that true plexus freedom joy, because something was out of alignment. So let's just kind of break it down into each category and talk about some things, just kind of some gut checks on each category, and then some things that you can kind of work on to make sure that you're in alignment. Always going back to that idea, that quote of discipline is the bridge between goals and accomplishment. So some of these things do take discipline, but honestly, to find the joy in life, you have to have a little bit of that. So let's talk about being truly broken of your vices, whether it's Dr. Pepper's or coffee from the drive-thru or just drive-thru in general, or, even if it's not, even if it's not like a traditional treat. Sometimes people have those vices that they know. Maybe it's overeating, maybe it's undereating, maybe it's just being too conscious of what you're eating, and it's affecting the lives of those around you, that you're so stringent that it's affecting the lives around you. So you really have to find that happy medium of living a healthy life, breaking those vices that you brought into your Plexus lifestyle. And we all have them. I have them. I have vices that I desperately am trying to break myself of. And it's a hard thing, but we go back to that discipline again of goals versus accomplishment. So that's definitely an area to work on. Another area to work on as a Plexus ambassador is an active lifestyle. And this doesn't mean that you're going to CrossFit 6 days a week and you have muscles for days and everyone's like, oh my gosh, you look so amazing. No, that's not it. It just means living an active lifestyle. And, it's a very baseline test is 150 minutes of activity per week. And that's not just housework, and that's not just digging in the garden, and it's not just walking the dog, but purposeful activity. And so if you're not at that place where you're having at least 150 minutes a week of purposeful activity where you get sweaty and breathless, that's something to work towards to bring you into alignment. And that's a very, very doable thing. I've seen people that have crazy, crazy, crazy work schedules. I've seen people with multiple children and multiple responsibilities. And when we sit down and we look at their schedule, we can always find somewhere to put it in. Is it going to be comfortable? No. Is it going to be 100% convenient? Probably not. But again, we go back to that discipline, right? And to be honest, literally, I've come across one person in all of my years that I've had this situation. I don't think you have time to work out right now. I think sleep is a bigger priority than working out. Literally, one person. That's it. So I promise you can do it. In that same vein, I want you to try things that challenge you. If you always, I don't think I can manage the participants here. If you are not muted, would you go ahead and mute yourself? Thank you so much. If you are always staying with that safe bet of just going on a walk with the dog, or, just eating a salad because it's healthy, try some different things. Challenge yourself. Go to a class with a friend. Go to a boot camp with a friend. Go do Zumba one night, even if you're a crazy white girl with no rhythm. I mean, I've been there. I've done that. Literally, I hurt my hip in Zumba. Clearly I'm the whitest white girl ever. I hurt my hip in Zumba. Cracks me up, but it was so much fun. I giggled my way through it. I felt like a complete fool, but it's fun, right? So challenge yourself, get out of that comfort zone, because you're going to find when you do that you are able to get out of your comfort zone in other ways as well. Really, and this can be very uncomfortable for people who have led a very unhealthy life for a very long time. But I want you to start to become and think of yourself as a health beacon for your friends and family. I want you to have the recognition of being the healthy one in the group. For people to look at you and go, oh, we're not going to go get burgers and fries because you're probably not going to want that. So that you can go, yeah, you're right. Let's go somewhere that has burgers, but make sure I can get a side salad too, right? I want you to be that person in your network that's the healthy one. And when they start coming to you for advice on diet, on fitness, on activity, on healthy recipes, oh my gosh, you are in alignment with those health goals. That's when you know you've made it. If they're just coming to you for Plexus because they need to lose weight, you're getting there. But when they start coming to you for health and diet and fitness advice, you have arrived in health alignment. So there's your health freedom alignment. Let's talk about financial freedom alignment. Now, Tomorrow, we have to turn in our taxes. Hopefully everybody has theirs done or they've gotten their extension filed. But I want you to think, when you were going back over your taxes, was it a wake-up call for you? I have a very good friend of mine, and I love her to death, and she's really happy with what she's doing. I don't agree with what she's doing. She now only purchases the product as an ambassador, but she is not wanting to work the business because she said that she didn't find her passion in it. And I was like, that's okay, that's fine. So she has joined a different network marketing company, a clothing company, and she has been in it almost a year now, about 10 months. And we were talking about her taxes, and she claimed a loss this year on her business. Now, here's the crazy thing. She has a huge inventory. She's always busy. She's very successful. She sells a ton of stuff. She puts a lot of time, effort, and money into this, and she claimed a loss on her business after 10 months in the business. And she was okay with it. In fact, she said, no, that's really what, I really planned on that. I know that this next year is when I'm going to make money. And I really had to bite my tongue in an effort to just be a good friend and support her, because I was like, I made money my first month. Like, I've never had a loss year. That wasn't considered normal, Maybe it wasn't a whole lot, but I've made something every month. And I can't understand that mentality of being okay with a loss year. And I don't want any of you on this call to be okay with a loss year. So whether you are a silver ambassador, whether you are just doing this wholesale hoping to cover the cost of your products, whether you are a ruby ambassador, a silver, or a senior gold, wherever you are in this business, you've got to make sure that your spending aligns with your income. Because I never want you to get to the end of the year and have to claim a loss year. It just doesn't make any sense. So are you meeting that minimum financial goal? Have you set a minimum financial goal? When I started, it was just to cover the cost of my products, and that's always been my minimum financial goal, is that I will every month cover the cost of my products. So what happens if you're not doing that? Well, is your activity matching your goals? If your goals are to cover the cost of your products, but you're really not posting and you're really not reaching out to anybody, are you going to be able to grow your business enough to meet that minimum financial goal? Probably not. So you may have to sit down and take a look at that and see if your activity is matching your goals. Are you overspending? And y'all, this is an easy thing to do. I am a gifter. My love language is gifting. I adore it. I love to give stuff away. I love to buy stuff for people. Every event, I love to give things to people. But you've got to keep it in check. And really the way that I do that, and I always have ever since my very first month as a silver ambassador, is I do 50% of my business builder bonuses go into gifts, giveaways, samples, output. All right. So that's a really easy way to do that. Well, what if you don't have a team? What if you don't have any business builder bonuses? Well, we're giving away a few sticks of Slim a month, and that's about it. If you don't have those business builder bonuses coming in, you don't need to be worrying about spoiling anybody and giving stuff away. You need to be worried about bringing more in. And again, I go back to that. Are your activities matching your goals? And to be very honest, I've had a few people that have come to me and they said, hey, Vegas is a really expensive location. I kind of overspent last year and I don't know that I can go this year. And I think that is very respectful and honorable. And I've worked with them on that. And a couple people, they just decided that this is just not the year for them to go to Vegas. And I am totally okay with that. And a couple of people, we've worked hard, not for them to get the convention credits, but for them to make enough income in the months leading up to convention to be able to know that they can cover the cost of the going out and the eating and the hotel and the blah, 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 right? Those are all expenses that you need to take into consideration for your business. So again, I go back, is your activity in alignment with your goals? If it's not, you really need to sit down and figure out, okay, if these are my goals, then my activity has to match that. And then the final thing that I want to talk about in financial freedom, and this is something that is very near and dear to my heart, and our president and CEO talk about it as well. If you're blessed, be a blessing. If you are at that point where you are making significant or even mild income with Plexus, you need to start to think about ways that you can give back, because truly that is financial freedom, is not only taking care of your own needs and bringing in income, but being able to bless others. That is true financial freedom. So if you are at that point where you're in the green, everything's good, you're not in a loss, and you are able to give back, then you know that you have reached that financial freedom alignment. So let's talk about time freedom alignment. And I think that this is something that a lot of people kind of skip over. And it's hard. You know, we talk about balance a lot, and I can't remember exactly who it was or where it was. I think, it might have been Carrie Wilkerson. It might be somebody else. I can't remember. But anyway, I just had to laugh. She was like, there is no balance. I don't know who keeps talking about this balance, but there is no balance. It's a little bit here and a little bit here, and you just try to keep all the balls in the air. And it's so true. You're not going to have it all at once. It's not going to happen. But the beauty of this is that this business is exactly what you make it to be. You are your own CEO. You set your hours. You set your workload. You set your time during the day. You set your start time and your end time. And it is all under your control. So if it's not what you want it to be, you need to sit down and write out what it needs to be for you and for your family. Now, your goals are going to determine your level of sacrifice. And it's short-term sacrifice, but there is sacrifice in there. So if you get started, or you have someone that gets started on your team and they say, I'm going to go diamond in a year and a half, I'm going to be emerald in a year, then you need to set their expectations, because there's going to be a high level of short-term sacrifice. And they've got to make sure that they're okay with it and that their family is okay with it. Because if those two things don't happen, it ain't going to happen for them. You know, at the end of the day, you have to be okay with your sacrifices, and your family has to be okay with your sacrifices. And I love how Carrie Wilkerson talks about this. And I keep going back to Carrie because she talks about alignment a lot. And so I've learned a lot from her and from her speeches. But she talks about your family as shareholders. And it's so true. They're in this with you. In some way, shape, or form, they are in this with you. And if you do not give them the respect of listening to their opinions on this, their desires for this, you know, what they think is worth it and what they don't, then this is just not going to end in a happy way. You're not going to be in that time freedom alignment. So you've got to sit down with them, especially your spouse, and say, you know, here's my goals. Here's what I want to do for our family. Here's why I want to do this. And I think sometimes that's the biggest thing behind it, is it's not the short-term income, but it's what you want to do with that. I know, and I'll get real personal here for a second, but I hadn't really had that conversation with my husband. In 3 years, Mark and I had not sat down and really talked about it. He knew my external goals. He knew that I wanted to be a jewel. He knew that I wanted to get to Hawaii. He knew that I wanted to grow my team, but he didn't really know the why. And when I sat down and I told him, and I said, you know, I'm doing this not for the short-term income. I'm doing this to build a legacy for our family, to build a legacy of giving back, of being able to bless other people, of being able to live like we never thought that we could live in our later years when Ashley's in college and she's gone, and we're able to just do the things that we want to do and have that time together. When he realized that, oh my gosh, his opinion of everything that I do in the evenings and that take up his time totally changed because he got it. He was like, she's not just doing this for her, she's doing this for us. And that was big. That was really big. So you've got to sit down and talk about that and figure out, are these short-term sacrifices, are they okay for everybody? Is everybody on the same page? I am a stay-at-home mama. I don't have a second job I do have a second job that I go to, but it's in the wee hours of the morning and it's my workout. So that's really easy. But I don't have to juggle a lot of different things, but I do have to juggle my family time. And so one thing for time freedom alignment that I think is huge is scheduling family time. You know, a lot of people say set business hours. For me, that doesn't work. For me, what does work is I schedule family time. So today I had family time. My daughter was off of school, and I knew from noon until about 4:30 it was Ashley time, and I really wasn't going to do anything business involved. I know that, you know, after this call until I have another call at 9:40, I'm going to go in there and that's going to be Mark time, and I'm not going to bring my phone, and we're just going to sit and talk and hang out. So for me, that works a lot better than trying to schedule business hours, because we know that this business is so like come at you whenever you can be available. So I think scheduling that family time is so, so, so important. I also think that it's really important to schedule time to be you. So often those short-term sacrifices that we talk about involve cutting out things that are really important to us, that we love to do, that we find our joy in, whether it's a Bible study, whether it's a class that we go to in the evenings, whether it's craft time, whether it's just time with our girlfriends, or maybe a book club, or I don't know, gardening, or, you know, whatever people enjoy to do. Sometimes that becomes part of that short-term sacrifice, and we begin to lose our joy in life because we've taken that out of our life. So go back to pre-plexus and think, okay, what were those things that I really enjoyed that filled my time, whether it's sewing or crafting or reading books or gardening or, you know, walking with the dog, whatever it is, and make sure that you are scheduling time for those things, because those are the things that are going to give your life joy and make this feel like not a job. Sometimes when we start to suck those things out, it begins to feel like a job, right? Instead of an opportunity. And we don't ever want it to get to that place. And my final little thought for time freedom alignment, and this is kind of your gut check, like, you know, when you've hit this place, you're good, is that whatever you're doing, whether it's work, whether it's with family, whether it's you time, whether it's kid time, whether it's time with a friend, that you're all in on that time. That you're not holding your phone at dinner waiting for a message while you're trying to listen to your kid talk about their day, and your husband's kind of grumpy because you're not paying attention to him. That you're not canceling lunch with a girlfriend because you really need to catch up on some reports and get some samples out. You've got some stuff to do. You know, that you're not falling behind on stuff around the house and not doing those things that you love because you've been doing so many Zoom calls with so many other people that you just don't even have time for your own house anymore. When you've hit that time, that place where you can be all in on whatever you're doing, man, that's a good place to be. And that's where that plexus freedom shines. And this becomes an opportunity that you can be joyful about and passionate about and tell people about and say, yes, this is the good stuff. This really does change everything. And your business will grow because of that alignment. So I hope you guys have come away with a few things. I'm happy to answer any questions later, now, whatever. But thank you so much for taking the time to listen.
Lauren, thank you. That was awesome. I want to kind of summarize some points, and then, yes, I want to open it up for some questions. I love this topic of alignment and the three areas that you talked about: time, health, and financial. You led off with health, which 150 minutes of breathless activity. I'm going to talk to my wife about some breathless activity here shortly. Time in. I don't know if that's yeah, running. That's what I was talking about.
Depends on the workload.
What were you thinking? Together. And then become and think of yourself as a health beacon. I think too many times we don't think of ourselves because we don't see ourselves complete or where we want to be, that we can be that health beacon. So think of yourself in that. I used to say in sales, if you know 10% more than the person you're talking to, you're the expert. So it's the same applies in this area. And then for financial, I love you set yourself a minimum financial goal and then make sure your activity meets that expectation. It's one thing to say my minimum financial goal is to be a senior Ruby, but if you're not putting in that senior Ruby work, it doesn't really matter what your goal is. You have to have the activity that matches. That's great too. Be a blessing when you're blessed. That's just something to live by. I think it's great. And then time freedom, I got a lot of nuggets from that. Your family are your shareholders. That's one thing that I know that we did from day one with our kids. We talked about the sacrifices and we explained why we're doing the sacrifices so that they can enjoy time in Hawaii. They could enjoy the things that we're able to do for them and do with them. Write your time goals for your business down. I think that's important too. Schedule your family time, and make sure that when you do have that family time that it's uninterrupted. You all know that we like to do things with the McKees. We've become close through since Plexus, and we've gone on a couple vacations together. And one of the things that we started on that first vacation, we looked over, our kids were all at the same table, and they all had phones, just staring at their devices. And we started doing phones to the middle. And everyone put their phones and stacked them up. And then the next thing we realized was we had to do Alicia phones to the middle because the adults were just as bad as the kids. So good stuff. Really great stuff. Thank you so much for sharing, Lauren. There's got to be a few questions. I know I see some here on the chat. So let's start with those first. And as people have questions, we'll ask them. This is from Melissa, can you repeat this discipline is the bridge between, what was that? The discipline is the bridge between what and what?
And I wrote that in the chat. It says,
okay. Oh, there we go. Sorry.
Between goals and accomplishment.
Discipline is the bridge between goals and accomplishment. Cool. Sorry. I should have read all the way down. All right. Other questions for Lauren?
Y'all don't all talk at once.
Yeah.
So thank you, Beverly. I see your comment. I appreciate that. Good to see so many friendly faces.
I know there's probably a lot of nuggets here. So going once. Okay, here we go, Katie. Go ahead and unmute yourself.
Okay, there we go. Hey, Lauren.
Hi.
I'm curious, what kind of things, I know you touched on like spending too much on bonuses, or not on bonuses, but on like spoiling your team. But are there any other things to watch out for overspending? I haven't come across that yet, but it seems like keeping receipts is crucial to be able to write things off. But like, what kind of things have you guys, maybe as Jules, found that you don't want to do?
You know, I think for me, my husband will say that this is so true. I'm a spender. He's a saver. And for us, I have to forget how much income is actually coming in and still live pretty much the same way I always have for the last 3 years. Because I think that it's really easy. Like on the 15th, you get that email and you're like, hot diggity, mama's going shopping, you know? And I think that's a really, really easy thing to do. And so for me, I have to just get my spending habits really haven't changed that much in the last 3 years. I have some nice things that I've kind of spoiled myself with, but yes, it always comes with those rank advancements. It comes with those business builder bonuses. That's really what I base my spending off of.
So not just business spending, but personal spending, just sticking to a budget, staying in alignment with your budget for personal.
Yeah.
Okay. I like that. Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah. Good question.
Cool. Any more? Okay, I'm going to stop the recording. Thank you all. Okay, go ahead.
All right.
I'm not going to stop the video. I'm just going to stop the recording. Go ahead, Diana.
So, just as far as, I guess, so my goal right now is to get to Emerald, and it was very much the goal to get there before convention, which I know I'm falling short of that this year, but I'm still working towards it for sure. Just had some curveballs thrown my way, but that's not going to stop me. So I guess from your experience getting to Emerald and everything, how much time time do you think is a good amount of time to put in each day to really seriously get there?
That's a great question. Do you work full time or are you at home during the day?
I work full time.
You do? Okay. And you have kids?
No.
No. Okay. All right. So, I mean, and you have to, I'm assuming you probably have to respect your employer's time as far as double working on the job and all of that kind of good stuff.
Yeah, so I actually get a lunch break at work and kind of a couple 15-minute breaks throughout the day. And so I do try to keep up with things as much as I can. But sometimes it gets crazy at work and it's all hands on deck and you don't have any time to yourself on a given day. So it just kind of depends on the day, really.
Yeah. No, I totally understand. I have talked with a couple of my friends who are also Emeralds that do work full time, and I'm sure that Phil is a great person to talk about this too. But I know for them, they use their travel time to and from work for messaging people and for training, listening to training. They use their times during the workday and their lunchtime for messaging people. So that's a really quick way to just shoot off 1 or 2 messages in the time that you do have. And then their evenings are spent for their team and for catching up with people, following up with people who have messaged back during the day. Phil, you're probably better at talking about this than.
No, you hit the nail on the head. And
You really did.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. That's kind of the plan that we came up with Diana and that we're working on. The key is the follow-up piece and making sure that when you're doing messages that they're concise and that you're doing call to action, that you're getting them to making them have to respond to you when you're leaving those messages. So you hit the nail on the head.
And I will say that the ones that I have talked to that do work full time, they did express that their short-term sacrifice was much higher in that period. That their evenings, most weekday evenings, were spent working. That they did have time, Saturdays and Sundays that they would take for themselves and for their families and whatnot. And they did express that short-term sacrifice was a little bit higher because their goal was bigger.
Right. Okay. Well, thank you.
Awesome.
Yeah, you're welcome.
All right. I'm going to pause recording. Thank you all very much for joining.